Hi, I'm Steve from The Casual Gamers, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to play the Deep Blue edition of Railroad Inc. Railroad Inc. is a simple but exciting game that's very quickly become one of my personal favourite travel games. The idea is that players will compete to create routes by drawing on their board, connecting as many exits as they possibly can. So, let's find out how to play. Setting the game up is as simple as each player taking a game board and a marker pen and then placing the dice within easy reach of all players. We'll be leaving out the expansion dice, which are these blue, river and lake ones, as we'll be explaining them later in the video. The game is played over 7 rounds. During these, you're trying to draw routes that connect as many of these exits as possible. You'll also be awarded bonus points at the end of the game for your longest highway, longest railway, and for any routes that you've drawn in the red outlined square in the middle of the board. To start a round, a player simply rolls all 4 of the route dice. Then all players must draw those 4 routes somewhere on their board. Now, there are drawing rules that you must abide by. Any routes that you draw must be connected by at least one of their sides, either to an exit or a pre-existing route. In the unusual circumstance that you can't draw a route, you simply skip it. You also can't draw a road onto a railway or vice versa. The stations fulfill that purpose. There are also 6 special routes at the top of the board. You can use one of these per round and up to a maximum of 3 over the course of the game. When using one of these, simply cross it out as you cannot use the same route twice. When drawing a route, make sure to mark down the round number in the top right corner of that space. This way, you can keep track of the number of rounds that you are on and make sure that no one is drawing more routes than they should be. Once 7 rounds have passed, the game ends and we move on to scoring. If I have multiple networks, each connecting a different set of exits, I'll gain the points for both. Let's say I have one network connecting 6 exits and another connecting 2. I'll gain the points indicated on the scoring chart for a network of 6 exits and a network of 2. I won't gain the points for a network of 8 as those 2 separate networks aren't connected to each other. To establish your longest highway, simply count the number of spaces, including highway, that you could follow without breaking off. A station doesn't interrupt a highway, and if you have 2 routes of the same length, you simply count one of them. Do this for your longest highway, and then, following the same rules, do this for your longest railway. You then count the number of spaces within the red outlined square, counting 1 point for each to a maximum of 9. You'll now lose points for every incomplete route you have on the board, marking and counting these with a circled X. Write down this minus total on its designated space on the board. Now, simply add up your total, leaving the last box empty, as that's for expansions, and the player with the most points wins. Once you've played Railroad Inc. a few times, you might want to add the expansion dice to the mix. To do this, choose either the river dice or the lake dice and add them to the 4 route dice. The game rules are exactly the same, except you're also allowed to draw the expansion dice. The game also takes place over 6 rounds rather than 7. The river dice add a 3rd type of route to the game, except they cannot connect to exits. You'll gain points at the end of the game for your longest river. When drawing routes, you are not required to draw any of the river dice if you don't want to. Unlike normal routes, rivers do not need to connect to a pre-existing route or a river. However, you will lose points at the end of the game for any rivers that do not connect to the outer edge of the board or a pre-existing route. At the end of the game, score your longest river just like you would a highway or a railway. You'll also gain 3 additional points if both ends of your river connect to the outer edge of the board. Lake dice help create bigger networks by connecting routes to lakes with piers. At the end of the game, you'll score bonus points for your smallest lake. When drawing lakes, as with rivers, these do not need to connect to pre-existing routes or lakes, nor do you have to draw any of the dice should you not wish to. If a space has 3 sides adjacent to open sides of lake, it is filled with water immediately. Open lakes at the end of the game do not count as errors, so this helps create much bigger networks. Any lakes connected to each other with a pier count as continuing your network. At the end of the game, you get 1 point for each space occupied by your smallest lake. And that is Railroad Inc. For more how-tos, reviews and playthroughs, subscribe to our channel, The Casual Gamers. Until next time, I'm Steve. Travel safe.